However, the spokesperson of India's External Affairs Ministry, Arindam Bagchi, has expressed reservation on whether it is appropriate for a foreign diplomat to comment on countries' internal affairs. Japan's largest maritime port, the port of Nagoya, suffered significant disruption due to a cyber attack, allegedly by the Russian group Lockbit. The Nagoya port is the main shipping hub for the car maker Toyota. The hackers allegedly demanded a ransom to restore control of the system to port operator. Operations were later partially restarted on Thursday afternoon. The Nagoya Harbour Transportation Association later stated that it had neither been in contact with the hacker group nor paid any ransom. Taiwan is gearing up to strengthen its diplomatic presence in India. It's doing so by opening the Taipei Economic and Cultural Center in Mumbai. During the fourth quarter of this year is when this is supposed to happen. In an official statement, Taiwan's foreign ministry expressed its intention to establish the center in order to deepen exchanges and cooperation between the two sides. It will offer visa services, document authentication and emergency assistance, and will later cater to tourists and Taiwanese nationals in parts of India. At least 6 people have died and over 70 have been injured in an overnight fire at a retirement home in Milan. The fire broke out at 11:20 Greenwich Mean Time on Thursday. This happened in a facility in the southeastern Corvetto neighborhood. Spokesperson for the National Firefighters Service, Luca Cari, said that the fire had been put out and that its causes were under investigation. Regional emergency services are now at work and emergency vehicles were seen outside the retirement home. Tensions were high on Thursday's UN Security Council meeting to discuss the Iranian nuclear deal due to the participation of Ukraine's representative. At the beginning of the session, Russia's representative to the UN objected to the presence by Ukraine's ambassador. He even accused the British presidency of the Council to trying to Ukrainize the session. Representatives from the US, the UK and the head of the EU delegation denounced Russia for allegedly using Iranian unmanned aerial vehicles in its aggression against Ukraine. They also called on Iran to adhere to international law. Russia and Ukraine announced a prisoner of war exchange. This will involve the exchange of about 45 soldiers from each side. While the authorities from both the countries confirmed the return of their soldiers, Ukraine also confirmed the return of 2 civilians. Ukraine's human rights body said that most of those freed are severely injured and will be sent for rehabilitation. Till the 17th month of the war, Russia and Ukraine have periodically exchanged groups of prisoners. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping said the country's military must dare to fight. He was inspecting forces operating in a flashpoint region near Taiwan. Xi's visit to eastern China comes during a flurry of diplomacy with the United States. United States has been Taiwan's main security backer. China views self-ruled Taiwan as part of its own territory. Beijing has vowed to bring the island under its control, even by force if necessary. During the inspection in eastern China's Jiangsu province, a Palestinian gunman shot and killed an Israeli near a settlement in the occupied West Bank. The Israeli military said the gunman fired at security forces who had stopped him to inspect the vehicle, which they found suspicious. This happened near the Dumim settlement adjacent to the Palestinian city of Nablus. The attacker was shot and killed by Israeli forces, the army said. According to the Hamas militant group, they carried out this attack in response to a two-day raid this week in Jenin. The operation destroyed the camp's narrow roads and alleyways, sent thousands of people fleeing their homes, and killed 12 Palestinians. On the other hand, India came down heavily on freedom of expression comments made by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. This comes at the backdrop of the continuous pro-Khalistan activity in Canada. India's Ministry of External Affairs says that they discussed this issue with the Canadian authorities both in New Delhi and Ottawa. Earlier, Trudeau responded to claims that his government depends on vote bank politics. The Canadian leader denounced these claims and reports as wrong. He insisted that his government always takes serious action against terrorism. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to meet French President Emmanuel Macron. This is, of course, ahead of Modi's visit to France next week. Macron's diplomatic advisor Emmanuel Bon was in Delhi to lay the grounds for this high-profile visit. Bon met his Indian counterpart Ajit Doval. The two held discussions around defense, security and strategic issues, in addition to taking stock of preparations for PM Modi's visit. The Indian leader will hold a bilateral meeting with French President Macron on July 13th. He will also be the guest of honor at the Bastille Day celebrations in the country. Days after violence erupted in France, the French Senate has now passed a controversial law granting sweeping powers to police authorities. This after the country was engulfed in riots after the police fatally shot a teenager in a Paris suburb. According to reports, French police can now spy on suspects by remotely activating cameras, microphones and the GPS location systems of a phone. Devices can be remotely activated to record images as well as sound. This technology will be employed to track suspects in the spotlight for terror offences, delinquency and organised crime. Debris of 8 aircrafts have been found in Ukraine. 7 decades ago is when this happened apparently. These were the jets which were used in the Second World War. A war which saw the United Kingdom, the United States and the Soviet Union fighting from the same side as Allied powers. The UK, which assisted Soviet Union in the period between 1939 to 45, is now assisting Ukraine in its battle against Russia. London has committed over $500 million to Ukraine in assistance, from anti-tank weapons to multiple launch rocket systems to armoured vehicles, artillery to small arms and ammunition. Climate activist Greta Thunberg has been charged with refusing to obey police orders during an anti-oil protest in Sweden. She was part of a group of 20 protesters blocking the road and climbing on tankers to stop them. The protesters were dragged away from the scene. They were believed to have disobeyed police instructions to move off the road. Greta Thunberg is due to appear in court towards the end of July. If convicted, she faces a fine or up to 6 months in prison. Some good news for the planet's forests. Brazil's Amazon has got a fresh breath of life. During the first half of the year, deforestation in Brazil's Amazon fell by over 30%. This comes after President Lula da Silva made tougher environmental policies a priority. He has promised to end deforestation in the Amazon by 2030. The Amazon rainforest holds tremendous stores of carbon, serving as a crucial buffer against climate change. Thousands of dead fish have washed ashore in drought-hit Iraq. The fish washed up on the banks of the Amshan River in Majar al-Kabir. This region is home to the fabled marshes in the floodplain of the Tigris River. Experts have drawn a comparison between the effect of global warming on water bodies and linked that to the condition of the fishes. Iraq's Agriculture Ministry announced the forming of a committee to look into the deaths of such vast number of fishes. Globally on record, last month was the hottest June, with abnormally high temperatures recorded on both land and sea. June smashed through the previous temperature records. Above average temperatures swept through countries like India, Iran and Canada. The extreme heat in Mexico caused about 100 deaths. Scientists suggest that climate attached with the emergence of the El Nino weather pattern have fueled record-breaking temperatures. China has announced a ban on food imports from nearly 1/5 of Japanese prefectures due to safety concerns. The ban comes in response to Japan's decision to discharge nuclear-contaminated water into the sea from its Fukushima nuclear power plant. As the largest buyer of Japan's seafood exports, China also stated that it will strictly review documents for food, particularly aquatic products from other regions in Japan. Chinese customs emphasized their commitment to detecting and monitoring radioactive substances to safeguard the food safety of imported goods. Ant Group, the fintech giant founded by billionaire Jack Ma, is expected to face a record-breaking fine of at least $1.1 billion. This penalty, one of the largest ever imposed on an internet company in China, marks the conclusion of the group's regulatory overhaul. The fine to be announced by the People's Republic of China paves the way for Ant to secure a financial holding company license, pursue growth, and revive its plans for a stock market debut. This development also signals a significant step in China's crackdown on private enterprises in the technology sector. The UN Technology Agency is showcasing many humanoid robots at the AI for Good Summit in Switzerland. The robots are on display at the AI for Good conference, which is of course happening in Switzerland. Among the star robots, Nadine stands tall. She is a caregiving robot with social emotions. The event also features the 4NE1 that can handle industrial tasks and improves manufacturing abilities. Interestingly, UN agencies are already using AI under the World Food Programme that pulls together data to identify areas sliding towards hunger. It is also developing remote-controlled trucks to deliver emergency aid in areas. The Angelo Arrigoni's bake shop, famously known as the Bakery of Popes, is about to wind up its 90-year-old business. Bread from this bakery, has served every pontiff. From the Pope Pius XI, who was the first sovereign of the Vatican City, to the current leader of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Francis. The bakery was opened in the year 1930 and became an instant hit among the residents of the Vatican City. The San Fermin Traditional Festival kicked off in Spain as thousands donning traditional white outfits with red scarves filled up the streets. Thousands of revelers packed northern Pamplona's main square and celebrating after Chupinazo firecracker bang.